What is up, everybody? Welcome to NBA Crunch Time here on RotoGrinders, sponsored by Fanduel, getting you ready for the Sunday NBA slate, which does start a little early. So we've got a 5 o'clock Eastern lock time on Fanduel compared to a 6 o'clock Eastern lock time on DraftKings. So with Fanduel being the sponsor of the show, we got to make sure we cover their slate here that starts at 5 o'clock and features 6 games on the FanDuel night slate tonight. So I am Justin Van Zuden, STL Cardinals 84. I've got TJ Zwarich alongside. TJ, what's going on today?
Oh, having a pretty enjoyable day outside of the Michael Carter injury. That one really crushed me today. Had him in all but one lineup. I didn't get to play as many as I wanted, as many lineups as I wanted to play because I was hosting Crunch Time for NFL this morning. But ready to switch it off to a different sport, talk a little NBA. We got a bunch of news right before the show. A bunch of people ruled in for Miami. And then on the Orlando side, a whole bunch of people ruled out. So a very interesting slate tonight.
Yeah, it's definitely for a short slate, one that wasn't lacking for news. The Detroit news was the first stuff to drop. Saddiq Bey is going to be in. Jaden Ivey, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Isaiah Stewart are all going to be out. If you're playing on the FanDuel slate, the Heat just announced that Tyler Hero has been given the all clear to go tonight. Whether he gets a full workload or not remains to be seen. And then we've got Suggs and Carter sidelined for the Magic tonight. They will start Franz Wagner, Gary Harris, Paolo Banchero, Bol, and Mo Bamba. So how does this news that's dropped over the last hour or so impact what you are doing with your lineups tonight?
I think it definitely makes Orlando the top target on the slate. Franz Wagner becomes one of the best mid-range plays from a point per dollar standpoint. And even though RJ Hampton is not starting, I still think he is a core play in all formats on FanDuel. And then on DraftKings, where he's 3,800 on a short slate like this, he's a borderline lock button for me.
We've got 6 games on that FanDuel slate, again, highlighted by the Miami-Atlanta game, which starts here at 5 o'clock. Let's go ahead and just kind of go through the landscape of the games. Is there a game, that Philly-Orlando game, one that you're targeting heavily then for GPP stacks, or how are you kind of handling your game exposure tonight?
Yeah, that is one of the ones I'm very interested in for GPPs, and then the other one being Memphis and New York with some pieces from the Atlanta-Miami game as well. And then on top of it all, Jaylen Brown, my favorite play on the entire slate. He is somebody that would get the lock button for me on both sites. And then the Detroit-Cleveland also could be potentially interesting as well. We got a bunch of injuries for Detroit, Jaden Ivey out again. And so they got some interesting value on that side. And then Cleveland, we're still waiting on Jarrett Allen and Karis LeVert injury news as well.
Yeah, Jarrett Allen will definitely be a big one. We'll see if that news drops. You're probably not going to get that prior to lock, even prior to DK lock, because that game starts later than the other games on the slate. So we'll have to kind of play that by ear. Actually, it does start right at DK lock time at 6 o'clock, starts that Cleveland-Detroit game. But the FanDuel lock being an hour earlier, you'll have to kind of see how you want to handle your exposure to that one. If we're talking kind of cash game builds tonight, start at the guard spots. I'll go through the cash games, and then I'll pivot it over to TJ for some tournament discussion. But Jaylen Brown, clearly the play with the guard spots there on FanDuel.
We did just get, sorry, I missed that. Right when we, before we came on here, we got Karis LeVert and Jarrett Allen both out. Rui Hachimura remains questionable. Kuzma, Monty Morris, and Johnny Davis are all game time decisions.
Yeah, I had not seen that either, so good to know. And that, how do you handle Cleveland with that news?
I think it boosts the priority of somebody like a Evan Mobley for me, but I don't know how much, like Darius Garland I still really like on FanDuel. He's 8,500, a nice cheap price tag there. Evan Mobley I think is still interesting, but I don't know how much I want to get to guys like Dean Wade, Chetty Osman, Isaac Okoro, Robin Lopez. Like that still just doesn't really feel that interesting for me, but it does make me quite interested in Darius Garland and Evan Mobley.
Yeah, so you said that both Allen and Levert are out?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so we've still got them projected. So those projections will get updated for sure, but I'll take them out here for now. All right, so back to
I
the
want to
kind
say kudos to you for keeping such composure right now.
I'm not happy right now.
After how the Ravens game ended.
I'm a Baltimore fan, and right as we've gone on the air, they've given up a touchdown to Jacksonville, and then the Jaguars made the 2-point conversion, and it's 28-27 Jags with 10 seconds left. But Justin Tucker's got a big leg. If they can get about 20 yards, they can maybe get a field goal look out of it. But they've blown so many games in the fourth quarter this year. It's just so disheartening. If they lose this game, this will be their fourth loss, and all four of them they had at least a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. So, I don't know. Well, we'll see. Anyway, the guard spots on FanDuel, I think Jaylen Brown certainly needs to be a priority for you at 8,500. Huge usage rate with Tatum out. He's got to be a priority at the guard spots. The other guys that you can target in cash games, if Reddish and Brunson both play, I think they're cash game targets if they go. As far as I know, we don't have that news yet. John Morant, if you have the salary, if more value opens up, I'm okay with Melton or Milton, but Jaylen Brown clearly the target. So, they're trying a 67-yard field goal with Tucker, and it is up, and it is short. Just short, like 2 yards short.
Oof.
67-yarder. Boy, he's got a leg. Didn't quite get it there, though. Woof, that's a tough loss.
That is tough. That's very tough. Who would be your cash game target today on FanDuel between Okongwu and Bamba at the center position? Like, I feel that's the very largest discussion on the slate.
Yeah, I think it's Okongwu for me. I mean, we've seen him. So Capella's out as well. I don't think I mentioned that at the top, but Okongwu, we saw him play 32 minutes, 30 fantasy points the other night. He's only 4,600. Let's see where we've got. We've got Mobley at 7,600. Horford was the guy I had tagged earlier in the day, but you can play him at power forward as well. So assume you're playing Horford at power forward. I think it's Okongwu at center at 4,600. I'll probably actually tag him as well at that salary with Capella out. So I don't think there's necessarily a right answer, but it's Okongwu for me. So I get that tag on him. And then the other spots, you got small forward, power forward. Jaylen Brown, you can play at either shooting guard or small forward. I still think you play Horford on FanDuel. When we get over to DK, he's less of a priority there with the $5,500 salary. He's a little bit more expensive on DraftKings, but on FanDuel at $5,500, again with Tatum out, I think Brown and Horford are your starting points. Now Grant Williams, I think, is fine as well at 4,900 at power forward. If you trust Bay to get his full minutes, I think he's all right. But my building blocks are probably Okongwu, Jaylen Brown, and Al Horford. I do like RJ Barrett a good bit for tournaments as well, but at 6,800, I can kind of take him or leave him in cash games. How are you kind of handling the tournament builds tonight?
Yeah, so there's a lot of the chalk that I don't think is bad chalk, and so I'm not necessarily trying to pivot off of it. I'm just trying to find a couple ways to make my lineup different. So I think the 38% ownership, 40% ownership on Jaylen Brown, 50%, whatever it's going to be, to me is way too low. Like, he is a 100% of lineups type player tonight. I love the Orlando and Philly game. I love these Philly guards, Melton and Milton, as well as I'm very interested in getting to the likes of the Orlando plays like RJ Hampton, Franz Wagner, both Bamba and Bol Bol, although I'm probably going to have an easier time getting to them on DraftKings because even though Bamba is a phenomenal play and Bol Bol's a great tournament play, I'm personally just playing one lineup tonight and it has Okongwu in it. But that Philly Orlando game is the biggest one that I'm targeting right now. And other than that, I'm still just kind of hoping to get some injury news to help me fill out my lineup here, like Kyle Kuzma, Monty Morris, because if both of these guys are out, all of a sudden it makes Bradley Beal an interesting run back. It makes Denny Avdia a very strong play. Kristaps Porzingis a very strong run back. So I am still waiting for that. And then on this New York game as well, like if Brunson is out, all of a sudden Derrick Rose is a value. Emmanuel quickly becomes one of the best mid-range plays on the slate. And so there's a lot that we're still kind of waiting for that will kind of help me solidify my lineup. But for now, I'm still playing those cash cores like Okongwu and Jaylen Brown. But I'm just kind of finding a couple small ways to pivot throughout my lineup. I'm kind of wondering if maybe some of these exterior Orlando guys don't get a lot of run. Like I think Bol is a phenomenal tournament play today because I think everyone's going to be playing Okongwu or Bamba. I think Gary Harris is a somewhat interesting value. I think RJ Hampton is a phenomenal value. He's one of my favorite tournament plays on the slate. And I think Terrence Ross is interesting as a value punt as well.
Yeah, I think in cash games you definitely have to get some exposure to the value pieces in that game. In the Philly Orlando game, plus you got Okongwu there for Atlanta. When we get over to DK, obviously you won't have that game available, so the discussion is a little bit different. But on FanDuel, you've got options. I still think you get some value pieces from this game. Kind of lost what my other.
I also really like Banchero for tournaments.
Yes, that was actually one of my thoughts as well. Banchero is back. 35 minutes, his first game back. Obviously a little bit of rust, but to be expected. The minutes were encouraging. Harrell, I think, is more interesting for GPPs now. He was a guy that was projecting a lot better in terms of ownership earlier in the day. Now with the value news at center, he's not absolutely necessary. So, you're only going to see, we've got Harrell at 7% now. It might even come down a little bit more. So, again, in cash games, you're probably going with guys like Horford and Okongwu. But for tournaments, you definitely have some pivots there. So, FanDuel is the only site that locks at 5 o'clock. We'll kind of go through the DK build before we get out of here. But if you have questions with regard to the FanDuel slate, we want to make sure that we get those answered prior to 5 o'clock. So you can drop those. If you got some, you can drop them in the YouTube chat. Of course, we will prioritize them from the RotoGrinders NBA Crunch Time Discord.
Need 20 likes before we can even look at the YouTube chat.
All right, so punch the like button on the YouTube video, please. Make me feel a little better after the Ravens
punch it
game here a little bit.
angrily. Punch it real angrily. Smash it. Just break your keyboard in honor of Cards, whose Ravens took a tough one, and I also took a tough one because Mark Andrews was my main tight end, and he dropped a touchdown that led to Gus Edwards' touchdown.
Yeah, and then Gus fumbled one away, and then they still got the lead back, and it's just another fourth quarter blown game. Which they can't seem to get over that plague. But anyway, hit the like button. Drop your questions in the Discord right now. We have a rogue NFL question in the NBA chat. We don't have any fresh ones in there, so please be sure to drop those in. Looks like Reddish might be available for the Knicks tonight. Let's see. I don't think we've gotten news on Brunson yet, though, so that one's still kind of TBD if you're interested in somebody like Quickly as a value play, particularly over on DraftKings. You might have to wait for that news a little bit more. All right, Raymond in the Crunch Time Discord chat has asked Melton or Milton or both in a DK GPP.
I prioritize Melton, but I think the answer is both if you have more than 2 or 3 Orlando guys.
Yeah, makes it a good game stack for sure. And I think their salaries are a little bit different on the two sites. They're 79 on FanDuel. Melton is 79 and Milton is 7K, but this was a DraftKings question. I have to peek at their DraftKings prices here. I feel like on DraftKings their prices are closer to similar numbers, but let me confirm. All right. No, on DraftKings, Melton is 76 and Milton is 66. So you're still getting a little bit of a discount, but I certainly don't mind either guy in a GPP build.
The other thing I want to touch on quickly, especially because we could have even more value opening up at these 6 o'clock games that we don't know about yet for tournaments. As I'm playing only one lineup, I don't have either of them in there. I'm not planning on doing a lot of weight swapping and paying a lot of attention to my lineups. I'm just doing something smaller dollar today. But if I was running 150, if I was playing, or even if I was just playing more than one lineups for tournaments, the answer is Luka Doncic and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like, yes, they're tough to get to. They're both up over 12K on FanDuel, but it's a 6-game slate, and we're projecting Giannis for 3% ownership. Like, that's just wild. Like, I'd be making sure I get 20-25% Giannis if I was running 150 type lineups today. And even if I was running 3 or 4, I'd be trying to get him in one of them, I think. Potentially even trying to do a Giannis and Luka Doncic game stack. Play both of them. It still leaves you 5K per position. We have the type of value on this slate to do it. Yes, you're going to miss out on some of the other strong plays on the slate, but I think it's very interesting to kind of take a strategy of like, all right, I'm going to play Luka Doncic, Jaylen Brown, and Giannis Antetokounmpo today, and then just jam in as much of this value as I can, hope some more opens up. In the meantime, I'll play Onyeka Okongwu at the center position. Because I'm playing Giannis and Luka, I don't have to worry about chalk. And so I'll plug in Okongwu there, no problem. I'll play Cam Reddish. I'll play Denny Avdia. Plug in all those guys, and all of a sudden I only got 3 positions left to fill out and 4,700 remaining. I talked about how much I love RJ Hunter. This lineup basically builds itself. Damn, I might build it and put it in my lineup right now because I like it so much.
Yeah, I'm just kind of doing that off to the side here. I mean, you can even take, like you mentioned, the chalky values, Abdia, Hunter. You still got 6,150 for that last 2 spots in that lineup that I just put there. Like you mentioned, you don't have to worry a ton about ownership if you've got a 5% owned Giannis in there. Do really like that approach in GPPs tonight for sure. Let's see. All right, Lord King Guru in the YouTube chat. Franz or Hero, last man in a single entry FanDuel GPP? I mean, do you think Hero gets full minutes tonight? I think that's what that question comes down to.
The answer is Franz, but like, it really depends on your risk tolerance, because in a single entry type field, the higher dollar you get, Franz Wagner is probably going to be 50+% owned. And so based on that, yeah, maybe you want to take a shot with Hero, but I definitely think the answer to who scores more points will be Franz.
All right, let's see. I think we're pretty well caught up on the questions. If you've got some FanDuel questions, go ahead to drop them in. We can come back and make sure we capture those. And obviously, it's only the one game that locks here at 5 o'clock, so we can go ahead and move on over to the DK build, where obviously you don't have, let me refresh this to make it bigger. You don't have that first game, but the other 5 games are all the same. Gives you an hour later before any games lock to help monitor the news leading up until that next set of games. So, all right. So if we go with the guard spots here, and most of the plays are going to be similar with the exception of, like Okongwu not being available. Jaylen Brown, basically the same price on DraftKings, going to be a priority there as well. We mentioned the 2 Sixers guards, Milton, they're fine. Morant, another strong play if you can get there. Another guy that's, not super highly owned on this slate, but if we end up getting more value open up, perhaps, he gets there. Garland, I think, is a lot more interesting. He's probably in your cash game lineup on DK now at 8,900. So you can see with our ownership as well. Maybe you start with Jaylen Brown and Darius Garland. If Reddish is a full go, which it sounds like he is at 4K, I think he's a fine value for cash games. So you can start with something like Garland, Reddish, Jaylen Brown, and then you get to your front court plays where Horford is a bit more expensive on DK, and he's only center eligible, but at 6K, I'm fine with him if you want to play him. I think I do prefer Grant Williams at 4,500 on DK a little bit. Gives you a little bit more salary savings to play with there. And he should get 30 plus minutes tonight. If you're on the Dean Wade bandwagon, like I am very much against playing Dean Wade because he's not very good. Certainly, in tournaments, you're not getting a big ceiling there. I get it in cash games. I think I'd still rather try to get to Bay at 4,900. Banchero's projecting pretty well now. But you're going to probably have to play one of the Dean Wade, Sadiq Bey, Chetty Osman types. Harrell is fine on DraftKings. And like I say, even though Horford isn't, I don't have him tagged as a core play, I still think he's fine for cash. Like I think you can play Brown, Williams, and Horford together in cash games. That gives you 2 spots left to fill out. But you're probably going to have to play one uncomfortable value on DraftKings because you don't have Okongwu available. And depending on how you feel about these Orlando guys, like Mo Bamba is 6,100 on DK. Again, fine, but probably not at 100%. You've got to play him in cash. Wagner, fine.
To me, the answer is just like for sure RJ Hampton. Like I don't even think it's an uncomfortable value. I just think RJ Hampton is a really good value.
Where do we even have him at on here? Did I miss him? I gotta.
He's $3,800 for Orlando point guard, shooting guard eligible. 3,400, sorry.
You think we've still got him projected at 18 minutes and 12 fantasy points. I presume you think that is a little bit too low.
Yes, like he played 28 minutes last game, and it should be more than that in my opinion. Like I don't know if maybe this is a case of we need a refresh, or that's something we've missed. But like with Suggs out, like to me, RJ Hampton needs to be projected for like 28 minutes.
Yeah, we've got him at 18. I think we still have the full 248 projected. Let's see. We got 34, 32, 30, or 35, 32. This is quick math on the side. Yeah, we've got the full minutes allotted. Oh, it's Gary Harris is back. That's why.
I don't know if 28 minutes of Gary Harris and 18 minutes of RJ Hampton, when they don't have another point guard, will carry out that way. Like Harris was back last game too.
Yeah, that's true.
He played 27, but Hampton still played 28 in that one. So like I think we're going to see a lot more RJ Hampton than at just 18 minutes for this one. I honestly think like if I was running 150 today, I'd be projecting him at about probably, just so I don't get 100%, I'd be probably projecting him at about 24, 26 minutes. But I don't even hate the idea of projecting him for 28 minutes and just letting it roll.
We might have come down. Let's see. Because he's not starting. So they're starting Wagner, Harris, Banchero, Bull, and Bamba. I don't know. Really interesting to see where they're starting Wagner. Wagner is listed as their starting point guard. So we'll see how it goes against an also depleted Philly team.
That's why I'm on tournament takes today, not cash games, because I'm telling you to go 80, 90% Hampton.
I'm trying to figure out whether he would be cash viable or not. If he was starting, I think he'd feel a lot better about it. At the moment, I probably think it's just a touch too risky, though he should certainly get some time because they don't really have any other point guards on the roster. We'll have to see if they decide to go with like 4 bigs. Throughout the game. Because like if you took that lineup I had there, which was 6,600 left for 2 spots, you put him at 3,400 and then you can get like a 10K player to round it out. But not sure, given the news that we have, if I would go there in cash. Anyway, how are you handling your GPP bills on DK?
Not a lot different. I like Banchero and Hampton way more on DK than I do on Fanduel because they're even cheaper. The rest of the guys, and then Bull as well, because he's got that power forward eligibility. I think he's one of the best tournament plays on the slate. And then outside of that, I still just want to wait a little bit for this news. Like that game will be my primary target unless we get some New York news of like, oh, Jalen Brunson's out. If Jalen Brunson is out, then all of a sudden Emmanuel Quickly is my favorite play on the slate. Reddish and Rose are two of my favorite values on the slate, and so forth. RJ Barrett would become one of my favorite plays on the slate. Julius Randle gets more interesting, like this whole team does. And so that's something I'm keeping an eye on, as well as this Washington situation. A guy like Denny Avdia is already a perfectly fine value, but if all of a sudden Morris and Hachimura are both out, then we get the type of situation again where Bradley Beal becomes a great tournament play. Porzingis becomes a great tournament play. Kuzma's a game time decision. If he's out, all of these guys out, we get Jordan Goodwin, Denny Avdia, and Corey Kispert all of a sudden looking very interesting as well. Maybe even if you're playing a lot of lineups, taking a shot on a guy like Daniel Gafford. Like, so there's still a lot of potential injury stuff to open up that I think could, and like the Cleveland and Detroit game we've touched on already as well. Like, this is a ton of value that we could potentially see here as well. So for me, the biggest way you can get very different in tournaments is just load yourself up on some Luka Doncic and Giannis Antetokounmpo, because yes, Jaylen Brown and Banchero are my two favorite plays in the mid tier because they're awesomely priced, but we might have some value opening up anyways. Take the shot on the two best fantasy producing players in all of basketball, maybe the two best players in all of basketball right now. They're playing against each other. Yes, Dallas plays slow and is a good defense, but we might have the value open up and nobody's playing them on a small slate. Seems like a great idea to me.
And Jalen Brunson is in for the Knicks. That just dropped about 30 seconds ago, so take quickly off the board. Still some spots to keep an eye on in the later contests, but that one is with both Reddish and Brunson available. Going to be tough to find all of those values on the Knicks. All right, let me take a quick peek for questions. I think we are good there. We are past the Fanduel lock, so your entries are locked, though you can still swap with the later games that are yet to get going. Again, keep an eye out for potential news. There could still be some surprises down the line. So.
Keenan Allen touchdown. That's what we wanted to see.
Keenan Allen touchdown. I've got to go decide if I want to watch any more football or if I'm too spurned by my team losing to want to watch any more this afternoon. But we'll see. Or well, time heals the wounds, I guess. And doing the show helped. But it just it wasn't great that it happened right as we got going. It was a distraction for a while. Anyway,
I'm a very uplifting person. If you're ever sad and you want to just hang out, we'll just stream and talk sports.
There you go. Take the distraction away from the massacre of your football team imploding yet again in the fourth quarter in front of you. That's okay. That's part of why we love sports and part of why we hate it, and part of why we love DFS and part of why we hate it. You just one play can swing so many things, so many dollars, and it's wild and keeps us coming back for more all the time for sure. All right, no additional questions in the Discord. We're covered on everything on the YouTube side, and we'll go ahead and get on out of here. Be sure to tune back in. We will be Will and I on tonight for the Sunday Night Football pre-lock show. That'll be coming up in a couple of hours. Packers and Eagles will be facing off in the football streets tonight. So thanks to TJ for joining me. Thanks to Steve for producing behind the scenes for us. I'm Justin. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, everybody. Take it easy, and we will catch you back here later.